Hey everyone! So today we are going to be making this bracelet right here. And let me grab a piece of paper to stick on top of my black table. Maybe you can see a little bit better that way. So come in a little closer so you can have a bit of a closer look at it. So this is what we're going to be making today. I'm going to be taking you through odd count peyote. So I'm really hoping this will not be a marathon length video, but if it is, I'm just going to split it in half. All right, so let's take a look at the materials we'll need and we'll get started. So we need our pattern, a pair of scissors. I'm going to be using some henna thread. This is a gray. It will actually go fairly nice with the colors and should be reasonably hidden. A ruler will be really helpful to ensure that you keep your place on the pattern. I've got my bead scoop. I have pliers. I usually have a couple of sets. Looking at, I think I've got a size 12. This is a size 11 sharp. Okay, so bead colors. To somewhat match the colors on here, on my pattern. So this is a turquoise, and I've got my Miyuki Delicas. Let me just slide in a little bit more. I'm still working with the awkwardness of this camera. So my Miyuki Delicas, and these are Delica bead number 0729B. Okay, for the darker green one, I decided to go with a dark blue. And this is, what is it called? Opaque dyed navy. And it is Delica 2143B. Doesn't look quite as nice on my camera as it actually does in real life. And then I've got, for the kind of a pale orangey yellow, I've got opaque squash, dyed opaque squash, and that's Delica bead 0651. And then the final color, I actually went for a silver lined red, and this is Delica bead, what is that, 602. So those are all the materials. Oh, and I'm going to use some beeswax on my henna thread. I find that it helps an awful lot. Let's talk about how to read patterns here. And I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this because I'm going to be doing another one on actually reading patterns, how to read peyote patterns, both a flat pattern as well as how to do a tubular pattern. They're sort of the same but a little bit different. But let's just start with this one. So hopefully you can see here at the bottom, we've got that typical peyote offset. These each represent a bead. So for your first row on odd count peyote, we're going to have to pick up, let's take a look here. So remember, we pick up the first 2 rows in peyote if we're doing it the conventional way. I'm going to use the 2 needle method, but let's just have a look at how we would do this. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So there's an odd number of beads. If we had an even number, we'd have another one down there, 16. So in one direction, always, you're going to have an odd number, and then in the opposite direction, you're going to have an even number. So, just be aware of that. Now, odd count is brilliant because it allows us to do these kinds of geometric shapes that require a center. Now, can you do these with even count peyote? You certainly can, but it's never going to be in the very center of your project. Whereas with odd count, you're going to be able to have the center of geometric patterns in the center of your project itself. Hopefully that makes sense to you. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start up on the second row. I'm actually going to add the second and third row at the same time. And let me grab my ruler. I'm going to just put my ruler on there for now, and hopefully you can see this fairly easily. So what I'm going to do is I'm not going to add row 1 on yet. I'm going to do that after, or in a few minutes. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick up two light beads, then 1, then 2, then 1, then 2, then 1. Then I'm going to pick up a dark and a turquoise, and then 1 dark, a dark and a turquoise, then 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2 turquoise. Once we've got everything on our needle and we've got our first few rows on, the next row above where we've picked up, and I'll show you this with the beads once we get there. I'm going to pull this down just a little bit, sorry. So when I come back, I'm going to be putting on a turquoise, a dark blue, turquoise, dark blue, turquoise, turquoise. Then I'll turn around. So I go up to the next row. Okay, so on our return row, we're going to be doing turquoise, turquoise, a dark blue, turquoise, turquoise, dark blue, turquoise, turquoise. Now it's this one right here that we're going to have to do what's known as the odd turn. And I will explain that in a moment. It's one of those things that people tend to get all freaked out about. So what we're going to do is put on, again, these 2 rows here. Sorry, I'm going to go in from the opposite direction here and make sure that you can see what I'm pointing at here. And if this is your first time, one of the things that you can do is just take your pen and actually mark off the ones that you're putting, that you're doing. Just put a little dot in them. So I'm going to start with 2 turquoise, then 1, 2 turquoise, 1, 2 turquoise, 1, then a dark and a light, then a dark and a turquoise, 2 turquoise, 1, 2 turquoise, 1, and 2 turquoise. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. And then with the 2 needle method, I'm then going to come back down with one of my needles and put on this row. And then I'll just leave it, and then we'll just continue to build on the pattern upwards. Okay, that may not make a lot of sense just now, but hopefully it will. Okay, so we're going to do this with the 2 needle method. And I don't have enough room to put my everything into frame here. So on this first needle, I'm actually going to pick up 3 beads. Well, 2 beads first. And I'm going to put my needles together. I've got my thread all sorted out here. Whoops, sorry. I'm trying to figure out where my arms are supposed to be. Okay, so I've got my my 2 beads on, and then you've seen me do this before. Now I'm going to pick up 1 bead on my left needle. I'm going to slide that down a little bit, and then I'm going to put my right needle through that as well. Really hoping you can see this. I'm going to be getting another monitor that I can actually watch my hands on a bigger monitor rather than trying to continually look up at my little tiny monitor. Okay, so we've got 3 beads on. So I need a set of 2, a 1. So 3 sets of double turquoise. So 2, 1, 2, 1, etc. That's probably not making an awful lot of sense, but it will once you see that I have. I'm just going to keep making sure that my hands are in frame. I'm having to look right up at my monitor, as I said, so it's a bit strange for me. And then trying not to catch on everything on my bead mat here, which is incredibly messy. Holy cow. Okay, so let me just push those guys down where they need to be. And there you go. And then I'll do another set of that. So another bead on each needle. And then one more on the left. Oh, my little dog is in here. And she's in such a puppy stage that she thinks she needs to grab everything. So if you see things suddenly flying off the table, that's her thinking that she should help me out somehow. I'm not sure exactly how it helps, but she seems to think it does. Okay? So there we go. So I did 2 turquoise, 1 turquoise, 2, 1, 2, 1. Okay, now I'm going to do on one side a dark and a turquoise. So we want to do this consistently. Excuse me with my... Okay, so on one needle I will pick up a dark blue. On the other needle I will pick up a dark blue, or a turquoise, I'm sorry. And then I got to pick up a dark blue that both needles will go through. And put the two together and slide everything down. Okay. Make sure I can get everything into position here. Okay. And so that's what we have there. I'm going to bring that up to the camera a little bit. Oh. Okay, and then we do that again. So what I have to make sure though is that on here I have to pick up with the same needle this dark blue where that one is up there. Just have to make sure it's the same needle. So I do that by pulling my threads apart, and then I know that the needle belonging to this upper thread is the one that I need to pick up my dark blue one with. So excuse me while I pull these needles apart a little bit. I know I'm going out of frame, but my needles are all tangled up at the moment. Okay, so now my pattern says I need to pick up a dark blue, and then with this needle I'll pick up a turquoise, and then another turquoise, okay, take a quick look to make sure I'm still in frame there, pull those all together and slide everything down. So that is what it should look like. Okay, and let me just get in a tiny bit closer just so you can see this. There we go. So that's what we're looking for. Now I'm going to put on another 3 sets of the turquoise. The other thing is that I'm not going to be teaching you really how to do peyote. You've seen me do this before if you're a subscriber. If not, there are tons and tons and tons and tons of videos that show you how to do peyote. I do have a few videos on that as well, on how to do peyote that you can have a look at. So I'm not going to really be spending time talking about or showing you how to actually do peyote. What I would like to do though is I want to show you a few different ways of how you can do that odd turn, because that's the thing that seems to freak people out the most, is how to do that odd turn. Okay, so I think I have one more set of 2 that I have to add on, and then we'll actually start our pattern. And that just means we're putting one on each needle, and we're not worrying about the third bead because we want to finish off with 2. Now this is where things can get just a little bit fiddly. Okay, so this is what we should have right here. And let me just come in a little bit closer. I'm going to try and find a spot where it's not quite so. There we go. So you can see those 2 at the end near my thumb. where those two blue ones are at the top is, let me just pull my pattern back in a minute, is the same as what we've got going on right here with this one and this one. So let me grab my pen. So those two are where these two dark blue ones are. So you can see below that bottom dark blue one should be another turquoise, and we don't have that. So I'm going to add that in with my other needle, and then I'm going to take that needle off and just leave this bottom row alone, and then I'm simply going to follow upwards until I have completed my pattern. So let me show you how to do that, because this part is fiddly, and it can drive you a little bit wacky at times. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to just pull my needles apart. So again, I know I'm going out of frame, but I got to pull my needles away from each other. So what I want to do now is I want to anchor these two end beads, because you can see how they're just sort of hanging out, they're loose. So the bead or the string on the right hand side, the needle on the right hand side, I'm going to go down this bead on the left hand side. Okay, and I know it's a little bit loose and floppy and kind of weird and stuff, and that's okay. Okay, and then the needle, excuse my fingers, I know they're in the way. And then the needle that was on the left hand side, I'm going to come down this one, okay? And then that should hold those two on quite reasonably well. And I'm not going to pull super tight, because if I do, they're going to just kind of face each other. I really hope that was visible. If not, all I did was I just took the needle down. So the needle that was coming out, make sure I'm in frame. So the needle that was coming out this left-hand side, I put the needle into the right bead. The needle that was coming out the right-hand side, I put it down into the left-hand bead. Okay, so that's all I did. It's that simple. All right. And there we go. So I'm going to put this one to the side, because this is the one that's going to be, in fact, I'm going to swap this over. I'm going to just turn it over, because what I'm going to do with this needle is I'm now going to add just a row of turquoise. I'm coming out of the bottom of this one right here. There. So I'm just going to fill in the rest with these guys. Okay, I'm going to pull. Try not to get caught on my other thread. And all I'm doing is going through the beads that are sticking up. There we go. And I'm doing this just to hold this bead at the top here, to make it sit how it actually should. Might have a little bit of a struggle with that, but that's okay. And there we go. So that's the last one. And now I'm actually going to remove the needle, because I don't want it hanging off. All right. So now I'm going to turn this around the other way again. And now we're going to start our pattern. So what I need to do now is I'm going to just do the first row here above these two blue here. So let me just bring my pattern back for you to have a look. So what we've done is I just added those 7 on right there. Okay, we've actually completed up to this row. So the next row, we're going up diagonally here. So we've got to pick up 1, 2 turquoise, a dark blue, a turquoise, a dark blue, and 2 turquoise. Okay, so that's going this way. Find my needle again, there it is. It's hard to see in this big mess here I've got. Okay, so this is what's considered the quote-unquote easy side. Okay, so there we go. So there's our pattern so far. Okay, so now we're going to be coming on to the odd turn. So let me see on our next part of the pattern here. Now I'm not going to keep reading this for you because hopefully you've gotten it by now where we did. So we did this. Am I in frame? Yes. So we did 1, 2 turquoise, then we added a dark blue, turquoise, dark blue, turquoise, turquoise. Now I'm going to slide up to the next set of beads and I'm going to be adding from this direction now. So we zigzag back and forth. So the even ones where we have 8 count, I'm going to the right. The odd count, I'm going to the left. Okay, so now I'm going to add 2 turquoise, a dark blue, 2 turquoise, a dark blue, and 2 turquoise. Okay, make sure I can see that pattern. All right, so let's start. So I'm coming out of the top of this one here. I'm actually going to flip my work around. And that's the nice thing when you're working with something symmetrical, you can do that quite easily. Move my yellow bead, it's really distracting to me for some reason. Okay, so I have 2 turquoise I have to put in. Okay, then I need another dark blue. And 2 more turquoise. So you can see now with this odd count that I'll have a turquoise that will sit in here, but there's no other bead to attach to up here. Now I'm not going to show you the conventional odd turn. There's lots of videos that put that up. All right, I'm going to show you 2 ways to do your odd count peyote turn. So I've picked up a bead. I'm coming out of this bead. I'm going to go into the bead just below it. And then I'm going to pull. So it sits beside the bead on the top there. Now my thread is coming out of this bead here. I'm going to go to the bead next to it and I'm simply going to go up that bead. Not both of those. Whoops, let me just go up 1 bead. So that bead, I'm going up that bead. Okay, so that bead that I'm coming down from, I'm going beside it and going up the bead right next to it. And I'm going to pull. And then I'm going to go up that center bead there. And I'm going to pull. And I think this video is going to be stupid long again. Okay. Now all I have to do is I'm coming out of that middle bead. I'm just going to come down this bead. Okay. And then the last 2 are going to be a blue and a turquoise. And I'm going to show you a different way now. So I'm going to pick up my blue. Just like the last time, I'm going to go through both of those at an angle, both of those beads. And I'm going to pull. Now, the next thing, I'm going to pick up a turquoise. And I'm going to square stitch it on. And I've been doing it this way almost since I first learned, because I started with square stitch. And I had to figure out all kinds of ways to do different kind of levels of square stitch, you know, with different shapes along the edge. And this just made sense to me almost right away. So I picked up my bead. I'm going to go up through that outer bead right there. When I pull, that just pops that other bead right in place, right beside it. I'm going to hold that tight, and I'm just simply going to come back down there. And you can see, actually it works really, really nicely. Okay, so I'm going to do another row down and back up, and I'm going to show you both ways again. Okay, so I'm down to putting my last 2 beads on this side. I'm back to the odd count turn side again. So I need to put on a turquoise and a dark blue. So I've got my turquoise. I'm going to go through the dark blue and the turquoise at an angle. Okay, and pull. Now I'm going to pick up my dark blue. I'm going to come down this dark blue right here below that last turquoise I'm coming out of. So I'll go down through that black or that dark blue one right there. Pull my thread. Okay, so I'm coming out of that dark blue one right here, the one below, the second row down. I'm going to go over to my left and come up that turquoise that the dark blue one is sitting beside. And I'm going to pull. And then up through the turquoise, that is the second from the end, right beside the dark blue on the top. And pull. And now I'm going to go back down through the dark blue and continue on the row. Okay, and then I'm continuing on. So I'm going to do another row, back up, and then I'll show you the square stitch method one more time. Okay, so once again, I'm at the end of the next row, back to the odd turn. So I'm coming out of that yellow bead there. So I need to pick up a turquoise. And again, I'm going to go through the turquoise and the dark blue at an angle. Just like that. And pull. And now I'm going to pick up a dark blue. And I'm going to square stitch. So I'm coming out of the dark blue at the top. I'm just going to go into the bottom of the dark blue. So I'm just circling my thread around. And I'm going to pull. And now all I have to do is go back down that dark blue and I can continue on. So it's pretty simple. It's a very easy one to do. So as I said, I'm not going to be following the pattern for you. I gave you a very brief bit of information on how to read the pattern. So you can find whatever pattern that you would like to follow. And those are 2 very easy ways of doing odd count peyote turns. So I'm going to continue along until I get a lot more done on this bracelet. And then I'll show you how to kind of finish up the ends. Okay, so I've got a fair amount completed on here. One thing I forgot to tell you is we're also going to need some sort of a button, and I've chosen a nice cut button. I think will go really well with that. So I'm now going to the reduction end. So I'm reducing down here, and I'll show you how that works, how that's going to look. I'll do a couple of reductions for you so you can actually follow along or see how that's done. So now I have to reduce. So this row has to drop on either end. Let me just come in just a touch closer here. So this row has to reduce down to either end, and I have to actually put 6 of these dark blue beads on. And I have to go in here 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And I'm coming out this bead. So the way that I can reduce, because I want to be coming out of this bead right here, the way I do it is I go through the thread bridge at the top. Just give me a moment. So I'll go through this thread bridge at the top here, just like that, and pull. And that will then allow me to then go down both of those beads at an angle. So I'm now coming out the right bead. Okay, so come through, and now I've got to put on, so I'm going to put in 6 dark blue beads. That's 4, 5, and now we're going to do 6 and get caught on stuff. So now I need to put on turquoise red, turquoise red, turquoise red. So we want a turquoise here, red, turquoise red, etc. So let's flip this over. So turquoise, make sure I'm in frame here. And red. Turquoise. And red. Turquoise. And red. So because we have to get a turquoise here, we're going to go through that blue and that turquoise right there. And I'm going to square stitch my turquoise one on. Pick that up. Square stitch that on. Flip over. And then we'll just come through here. And I'll be back. So that's that side finished off. I'm very nearly done at this side here. I'm just going to do a quick little test fit to see where we're at, where buttons and stuff will go. But it's pretty close to being a really good fit, so I'm going to finish this side off, and then we'll come back and we'll put the button on this side and then the loop on this side. So once I'm done, I'll be right back with that. Okay, so what I've got to do now is I'm coming out of this bead here. I'm actually going to go up to this top one, and because I want to come out between those two beads there. Just like that. And then I'm going to go back down through all 3 of those beads to get out to the end here. So what I want to do now is I want to put on my cup button. So I'm going to pick up a turquoise and I'm going to go through that bead there. I'm going to pick up a blue bead. Pick up this one here. Pick up a blue bead and a turquoise. And we'll see if this is going to work for me. Come up one side. Now, blue, turquoise, blue. Go down the other side. Nope, other side. There we go. And now we'll pick up another turquoise that's gotten away on us. I'm going to go through that blue bead there, skipping the turquoise. Stick my thumb over it and pull tight so I can get this all nicely tightened down. Oh, and there goes my needle again. Okay, so now, so I'm coming out of the bottom of that blue bead. I'm going to pick up another turquoise and I'm going to go through this next one right here. And I'm going to pull. And that should work pretty good, I'm thinking. So I'm going to go back and around that bead that I'm coming out of, and I'm going to go back up it. I think I'm going to try to anyway. And the next turquoise bead, and I'm going to go through the bead below. Sorry about that. It seems my camera battery decided it was going to just die on me just as I was trying to finish this off. So what I did was I just went through everything and I reinforced it a few times, and yeah, so that's the end product. But on the other side, we're going to do the same thing as what I did over there, and that is I'm going to pick up one blue, and I'm going to go through that middle one there. And then I'm going to pick up, sorry, that was a turquoise. I'm going to pick up a blue here. And then I want to pick up enough beads to be able to make a loop around this. So I'm going to start with about 20. All right. So I've actually picked up 26, and I'm just going to come back down through that blue one. And I'm going to hold this tight because I want to test if this is going to fit my around my button. I want to make sure it's got a good fit there. So that's 26. And I think that's probably going to be, I think it'll probably be okay. And I'm going to come all the way out to that edge there, picking up another turquoise to go into that final little slot there. And just going to pull that tight. And that should be pretty good. I'm going to go through my thread bridge at the top here if I can. I seem to be having a really hard time with seeing stuff. The light has changed in here quite a bit, so it's a little harder for me to see what I'm doing. Looks good on camera, but it's sort of, it's just a weird light in here right now. So I'm going to go through up through 4 of those beads. And then I'm going to go into the bead below here, and then come through. Whoops, just want to make sure that I don't get my loop caught there. Now I'm going to come back up that blue bead, and then I'm going to go around my loop and then come back out here. All right, so all I'm going to do now is just work away my thread, and I'm calling that project done. So that's odd count peyote. I really hope that it was clear to you how to do those odd count turns and how to follow a pattern. And yeah, so I think the next video I'm going to try and just do one on reading patterns a little bit more. I'd like to talk about how to read a pattern. I already showed you a bit on here, but I want to show you how to read a tubular peyote pattern, and then we can start on some of those projects of tubular peyote, because there's a lot of really neat things. I want to do a different sort of series on peyote, because I want to start showing you how to do tubular peyote so you could make needle cases and things like that. It's really quite easy. But I also want to show you, once you learn how to do the tubular peyote, I want to start showing you as well how to bezel the round rivolis. And it's in a way kind of almost similar to what I did with the triangular one, but I find that for me it's just an easier way to bezel a rivoli. So that will be coming up on my next video. If you enjoy my videos, please give me a thumbs up and subscribe, and don't forget to share with your friends. And yeah, so I'll see you next time. Take care.